Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about capitalism. First, of course, I'm going to start off with definition. I've got two definitions today. They're not very different, but, well, you'll see what I mean. Usually I use Google's definition. Just Google, define whatever term I'm talking about, right? Their definition is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. I pulled a second definition off of a website called Investopedia. They define capitalism as an economic system in which private individuals or businesses own capital goods. The reason I think those two are different, and the difference is important, is Google states that it's for profit. It names it as the sole reason for capitalism is for profit. I think it's important to say the difference here because capitalism is not necessarily solely for profit. Granted, it is a large portion of it, but the big idea here is private ownership of the means of production. Private property is absolutely essential to capitalism. So let's get into a little bit of the history of capitalism. It kind of started as an idea as agrarianism in these European countries in which feudalism was involved, where you had the feudal system in which there would be serfs at the bottom. Those serfs would work the land, and they were allowed to live there and eat there, and that's what they got for working. They were not being employed. They were virtually slaves in almost every sense of the word. So when agrarianism took over as a prominent economy, I guess you could say, in Europe, mainly in England I'm talking about here, these landlords owned large amounts of land, and they would employ these workers. That exchange of currency to the workers, like the fact that they were paying the workers rather than just letting them live there and eat their food so they could abuse them as workers, that's kind of the first capitalist idea that you got, right? After that, you had mercantilism. Mercantilism rose during the big time of exploration. These merchants would travel around and explore and trade with whatever countries or groups of people they found. It's important to say that they were trading, so they weren't necessarily selling things, so there was no exchange of currency technically, but that was the prominent economy, was trading and bartering, right? The next big change to economy was the Industrial Revolution. Now, this led to industrial capitalism, but basically the big idea here is that production switched from artisans and craftsmen to factories. This change led to an amassing of capital by these areas of the world that industrialized. The amassing of this capital, of course, led to a rapid increase of the standard of living in those areas. Of course, with some serious growing pains. These people had to deal with very low wages, dangerous and oftentimes harmful work environments, long, strenuous hours, which, we have made strides in fixing that through government intervention and unions and stuff like that. We definitely do not live in the same work environments that we did during the Industrial Revolution. It's not even close. We have the 40-hour work week and such. So the next stage in this would be modern capitalism, which modern capitalism is a mixed economy of the free market and government regulations. Okay. So I want to get into my thoughts on capitalism. Capitalism, in its purest form, is a free market economy in which there is no regulation. The free market will do what it does, and that's that. In order for this to work, you need to have very, very heavy participation by the population or the consumers, right? Not only do they need to be heavily participating in that, what I say when I mean that is they need to be well educated. They need to be paying attention. They need to be paying attention to what these companies do. They need to be paying attention to these companies' work practices. They need to be paying attention to how they treat their employees. Now, how do we have this power? How do we have the power in capitalism? We have all of the power in capitalism because these businesses need us to pay them for their goods. If we see something that the company is doing that we do not like, we stop buying their goods, and that hurts them. They see that we did that, and they change that practice. In theory, of course, I'm not saying that this is going to work every time, but generally I can't see how, if all of the consumers agree on something that is bad, and we tell them that it's bad, we stop giving them our money, they're going to stop doing it. Otherwise, they won't gain money. And what is the purpose of making a business if you're not making money, right? So, it's the power of the dollar. It's the most important idea in capitalism. The next big idea that I'd like to talk about is the fact that, while it's not a perfect system, which I've said many times in this video, industrialization and capitalism has led to higher standards of living and a drastic reduction in poverty. In the entirety of human history, there is no better system to raise people out of poverty. It's not even a competition. Hands down, capitalism and industrialization. Even the poverty line in our country, is higher than a vast majority of the world's population. So, it's capitalism and industrialization. That's what it is. It seems like an unfair system because, there's no equality of outcome, because that goes against the very basic concepts of capitalism. You're not going to pay someone to not do a job. So you can't just treat everyone as equal in that sense. Everyone can't get the same outcome because everyone has different work ethics. Everyone has different motivations. Everyone has different amounts that they're willing to put towards a job, So it seems like an unfair system. But capitalism coupled with complete equal opportunity is the most fair system we have so far. There's nothing else that comes near it. So that's that.